right, everybody. So welcome today to the first of our lunch design lectures, lectures in architecture. We call them lunch lectures because you are allowed to have your lunch during the lecture, which is making the whole thing easygoing, nice, relaxing, and not too serious. All right, we will have 4 design lectures this semester, more or less in a row. So this is going to be the first, and then the other 3 in the next weeks. The design lectures, they are open to architects and interior designers. Today we start with an architect, and then later on in the other lectures we will have also an interior designer, a landscape designer, and on and on and on. So I hope that we chose interesting architects for you. The architects we invite, they are always Italian. Yes, this is a must to be, and most of the times they come from Rome. All right, so today we have CRISTIANO Gemma. He's here and he was so gentle, he accepted our invitation. CRISTIANO is an architect and he's the founding member of Studio Gemma Progettazione. He actually contributed to the design of the dome together with Alvisi Kirimoto. And now this project is part of the Sustainability exhibition that your colleagues of the former semesters designed and built up. Now the exhibition is in Dubai. So the project that CRISTIANO was involved with has traveled around the world, first in the United States and now in the Emirates. CRISTIANO will give a lecture entitled Transformation, Renovation and Restoration, Reflections on the Reuse of Existing Buildings. Let me read a little bit of an introduction to the lecture, and then I will leave the stage to CRISTIANO. Redesigning an existing building poses several cultural, technical, and economic questions. A renovation project, in fact, is much more complex operation than the mere representation of spaces and construction details. The project of the recovery of an existing building is a dense mesh in which functional requirements, technical needs, and structural aspects are being interwoven together with the history of the building itself. The designer must know how to carefully balance which innovations to introduce and which existing elements to enhance. We will try to understand together how to approach the design of an existing building, what are the major problems encountered in this type of project, and how to solve them. For more information about the work by Studio Gemma Progettazione, you can visit the website www.studiogemma.it. All right, now, long story short, I give the stage to CRISTIANO. CRISTIANO, thanks for being with us. You can start.
Okay. So good morning, everybody. Have a nice meal for those who are having their lunch. I'm CRISTIANO Gemma. I work with my own firm here in Rome, and I study in the Faculty of Architecture here in Rome, the Faculty of Valle Giulia in University La Sapienza. And then for 7 years, I also taught in this university, and I used to teach technology of materials and technology of refurbishment. And what I'm gonna tell you today, it's a part of the things that I taught in the university that time. We're gonna talk about transformation, renovation, and restoration, obviously. And first of all, I would like to understand what this word mean. And well, by the way, excuse me for my horrible English. I'm Italian, as all the others architects that will come here, but I will try to do my best to express myself. So, transformation, renovation, and restoration. What's the difference? What's the difference? Obviously, renovation and restoration are both transformation, because even if we talk about restoration of a building, there is no possibility to restore a building or a work of art without transforming it. There is always a little transformation. But renovation is completely different from restoration. Restoration concerns those artifacts that either because of their intrinsic historical artistic value and or legal constraints must be the subject of a preservation. So the key word is preservation. Restoration means preservation. So the primary goal, obviously, is to conserve the artifact as it has come down to us and to guarantee its survival for years to come. Okay, so it's very clear what is the goal of the restoration. So what's the difference with the renovation or a refurbishment? First of all, let's say that buildings are not paintings. Buildings are not sculptures. What's the difference? We don't use sculptures and paintings. We just watch them, but we use buildings. And to use a building, the building must be functional because we have to use it, especially nowadays when our building needs a lot of plants and installation and Wi-Fi and MEP and so on. Okay, so a renovation or refurbishment means the full recovery of the functionality of the artifact, even if this should be very different from what it was originally designed for. And once again, here, which is the key word? Very different. Because if we search the functionality, if we want the building to be functional, maybe we have to change it. We have to transform it. And maybe this transformation will be a very huge, a very big, very large transformation, okay? So the primary goal in this case, when we talk about refurbishment, will be complete rehabilitation, okay? But the truth is that we can have extreme cases. So look at the pictures in the slide. The extreme cases could be a very important historic building. In this case, I just put the picture of St. Peter's, okay? So St. Peter's is an extreme case of a building in which we don't have to transform it. We don't have to give it a new functionality. We just have to preserve it as much as possible. And the other extreme case is, I don't know, a very horrible building from the 80s with no important or interest things in it, and something like that. Well, the truth is that in a lot of cases, in much of cases, we are not on those extremes. We are in the middle, or not right in the middle, but in a part of this line between renovation and restoration. And we have to understand where we are, and we have to decide how to approach the design, the project, and what to do. So approaching an existing building renovation means exactly this. Means try to understand where are we on the line. So we got different aspects that we have to deal with. Okay, so we got cultural aspects, and these cultural aspects we will discuss these aspects later. But the first thing that I want to say is that we got a theory of the restoration. We got some very important principles of the restoration that has been studied and decided since the first years of the 19th. And but this principle, this theory, is not the right theory to apply to a rehabilitation, to a refurbishment project, because it's the theory of the restoration. So what we are looking for is a new theory or a method. So that's what we're going to speak today about, a method to approach a rehabilitation, refurbishment project, and the differences with a restoration project. So which are the principles, the foundations of restoration? Everybody, every architect must know these 5 principles, okay? Because are the very, very important. And the first one is recognizability. What is recognizability? Means that every time that we make any intervention, any transformation on an existing building, on an historic building, we must do it in a way that it's possible to recognize it and to see that this transformation was made after the building of the building itself. Okay, so we have to recognize the difference. And how can we do that? We can do that using different materials, similar but different, or without giving a different shape to certain kind of to certain part of the building and things like that. We will see some picture later. And so recognizability is the first principle of restoration. The second one is reversibility. Every intervention on an historic building must be reversible. It means that when we will have in the future a different technique to make this to make any kind of transformation or to adjust something that is not working properly, maybe in the future we will have a better way to do it. And so we need the possibility to demolish or to let's say demolish what we have done and to replace it with a better technology. So every intervention must be reversible. The third one is minimum intervention. That is to say that we have to do less as possible. Just what we really need, not what we would like to do or what we like just because we want to leave our firm, our signature in the history of the building. Okay. Then compatibility of materials. That's very easy to understand, and interdisciplinarity. That is something that it's not so referred to our work, but is the idea that when we approach a design of an historic building, we always have to study the story of the building. Maybe we have paintings in it and things like that. So we need the aid. We have to collaborate with other professionals, not just architects, obviously engineers, but also historic experts and expert in painting, restoration, and so on. Okay, so we will, as I said, we will return on the theory that we need for a renovation later. But we were talking about cultural aspects. When we approach refurbishment project, we also have to consider technical aspects and economic and social aspects. Okay, technical aspects are very, very important, and probably it's the real problem. I mean, the real problem is always to put in the existing building all the new stuff, all the new technologies, all the new plants, all the new installation that we need today. And this is pretty complicated. It's not just a problem of installation and technological system, but also a problem of structures, because also the structures of the building must be safe and must be adequate to the current regulation. So we have to search for safety of the structures, adaptation of the structures to legislation and new laws, adaptation of technological installation to legislation and the needs of modern life, compliance with health and sanitation standards, finding spaces for technical rooms, and so on. A lot of things. The last one, finding space for technical rooms, for example, it's something usually quite hard to do, because old building didn't have technical rooms, because there was no need for these technical rooms, because the plant installation was smaller, or there was no installation. But nowadays we need a lot of space for the MEP, for the ventilation, for the air conditioning. These are devices that need a lot of space for using them, and also for the maintenance. Then we got economic and social aspects. Sometimes they ask me if it's true that a rehabilitation, a refurbishment costs less than building a new building. That is to say, the demolition and subsequent reconstruction of a building. And sometimes they say, well, but it's cheaper to demolish it and rebuild the building instead of refurbish it. It's not true. The truth is that the refurbishment of a building, it's cheaper than demolish and rebuild a building. But you have to consider, to take in account that the product that we will obtain will be hardly comparable in terms of quality and efficiency with a new building. Because even if we will try to do our best to place in the building all the installations that we were talking about, and give to the structure all the safety that we need, a new building will be much more safer and useful and functional than a building refurbished. But then we have also to consider that there are other reasons for which we want to preserve a building and not to demolish it and to renovate it. And usually it's because we believe in the value of existing building, even if these buildings are not very interesting by an artistic or an historical point of view. But this building can be a part of a city, and as part are always part of the city, usually a part of the city, as part of the city must be preserved because they represent the background of other important buildings. So we preserve monuments, obviously, but we have always to remember that the monument is linked to the environmental space in which it was built, okay, as a backdrop of the monument itself, and must be included in the preservation action, this backdrop. And that's why historical centers must be preserved in their global aspect, like not just the building itself or what's inside of the building, but the alignments, the road sections, the original blocks, the colors, and so on. So that's why the preservation of existing building, it's important also to help the preservation of the real monuments. Okay, and also we have to consider that even a building of no artistic value represents an historical document, no, with walls, wooden beams, and so on. So we see that we got different aspects: economical, technical, and cultural. This means that renovation is an extremely complex operation. Gabriella Caterina, that is a professor of Tecnologia del Recupero Edilizio, Technology of Refurbishment, wrote a very important book, maybe the most important book written on this area in 1989. And she used to say that the existing building has its own resistance to being distorted, like if it was something alive, okay? So if it's so complicated, I understand it's cheaper, okay, but it's very complicated, and that there are this resistance of the building to be renovated. So why do we renovate buildings? What's the reason? Well, we got different reasons. As we said, we can have economic reason, it's cheaper. In Italy, we have to take in account that implementing a project and obtaining permits for a refurbishment, it's much more fast than obtaining a permit for a new building. And this is always very important for the owners. We got social reasons. What means social reason? If you have to demolish a building, you have to demolish. It means that you have to empty the building, and the people who were living there or working there must move somewhere else. In case of refurbishment, you can have a partial refurbishment, or you can refurbish it by different parts. So this is something to take in account. Then we have reasons related to town planning legislation. Sometimes it's forbidden, or in Italy it's like that. And reasons related to the preservation of valuable things, buildings or environments. There is also, I don't know if the link will work. Now in Europe, consent, For example, now in Europe, there's a movement that you can fight on this website. There's a movement for renovating buildings instead of demolishing them. I don't agree completely with this website and this association, but you can see that is a problem that people is talking about. Yes to renovation, not to demolition. Why? They indicate different reasons. The demolition drama, they say that it's a problem because it wastes a lot of energy, because the building of a building it's a very big waste of energy, and if you reuse existing buildings, we can avoid this waste. There are also other aspects like demolition destroys homes and displaces community, destroys jobs and prioritize profit over people, destroy materials and wastes energy, memories, and so on. So you can see that there are many reasons for which we can decide to refurbish a building than demolish it because it's old and non-functional. If you want, you can go to this website, to houseeurope.eu, and have a look at what they say. It's quite interesting. I don't agree completely with this website, with this association, just because I think that we cannot avoid completely to build new building. Obviously, we must do it. There are many reasons to do it, and we also have to renovate. I think it's right. The word to renovate our building heritage, because otherwise, in don't know, 100 years, we will have just old buildings with no functionality and no new architecture in our cities. So let's go back to the cultural aspects that I was talking about, and how we can reconcile the necessary innovation with the parts of the existing building that we wanted to preserve. This picture is very interesting. I don't know if you know this important project from Copim Blau, the super elevation in Bienne. It's very famous. Obviously, because of his how do you say, of his difference with the existing building. It's very how do you say, hard to see, but at the same time you can appreciate the value of the project itself. I mean, this is a deconstructive design. You may not like it, but you have to you can see that the quality of this project is very high. So can we stop the transformation of cities? This is another picture, very interesting, because it's right here in Rome. I don't know if you visited it. Is La Lanterna, the Massimiliano Fuchs, from Massimiliano Fuchsas, a Roman architect, right in Via del Corso. And you see that it's very different from the background of the city. So I cannot understand to the question: is it right? Is it right to leave Massimiliano Fuchs to do that in the center of Rome? And I cannot answer this question. I don't want to answer this question. But what I know is that obviously these projects cannot be something. That you do everywhere. You can do this kind of thing just once in a very little number of cases, obviously. But we have to ask ourselves what we have to do. We that are not Massimiliano Fuchsas, and we are not allowed to do this in the center of Rome. Well, to try to explain my point of view, I will talk with the words of some important architects that talk about this before. In an interview with the Corriere della Sera in 2005, Peter Eisman was asked whether historic Rome should be defended from contemporary architecture. And I read what he answered: absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not so sure, as Peter Eisman is. I'm not so sure. But its answer was that absolutely not. It has never been protected from architecture that over time has been contemporary. Bramante, Borromini, Piranesi, Vignola experimented. They were innovators in their time. Today, Rome must welcome contemporary architecture as it has always done, but it must have respect for the historical context. Not so easy. If a city, like an individual, does not belong to its time and lives of nostalgia, it dies. It must be avoided that the city becomes a kind of museum. Places must be found where great contemporary architecture can be inserted following a clear urban strategy. Well, easy to say, but not so easy to do. But it's a point of view. Another point of view of another architect of our history, that is to say, Borromini talking about Michelangelo, and it's interesting, listen the word of Borromini talking about Michelangelo, say Michelangelo, Prince of Architect, used to say that who follows others never gets ahead of them. That means, again, that you have to, the history of architecture must go on, okay? So what is my point of view? My point of view is that the answer is quality. The answer is quality. I think that if a project has a very high quality, I think that it can stay among other important and ancient monuments. But it's not so easy to define quality, because if we think about Frank Lloyd Wright, it's quality. Yes, it's quality, of course. If we say, I don't know, Louis Kahn, it's quality. But if we say Cristiano Gemma, how can Cristiano Gemma or you, when you will be architects, how can you reach quality? Well, many scholars have tried to do it. I've tried to define quality, what is quality. So once again, I will try to express myself with the words of someone most important, more important. And in this case, I want to talk with the words of Bruno Zevi, that has been one of the most important architects and writer in the architecture field in Italy. And he argued that the contemporary architecture should assert its validity in an average production and not only in the works of few greats of the architectural jet set. That's what I was saying. We have to try to reach a high level of quality, not just for Louis Kahn or Frank Lloyd Wright. We all must search for the quality. To do this, it must be based on a rigorous methodology that is not the standardization of the creative process, but profound knowledge of the architect's craft. So we have to study, we have to know technology, the architect's craft. We must know how we build buildings, not just how to design it. We have to understand the technology, the materials, the building, the structure. It's very important. And Zevi also say that the basis of this architecture, of this quality, and the architect's operational methodology, once again, method, must be a history of architecture written with the tools of the architect and not only of the art historian, and that it must also include the study of minor buildings, town planning, and landscape. What means history of architecture written with the tools of the architect? If you go to a church here in Rome and listen to that devices like telephones where you listen to the history of the church, they do tell you the history of architecture of the church. Never. They always just give you some dates. In 1995 it was built, or they talk about the colors. There's a very important mosaic color because the columns and things like that. But they never explain the architecture. Architecture is another thing. Architecture is made of space, is made of empty, is made of light, and they never talk of these things. Well, obviously, because these devices are for not architects, for people who go there, who want to visit the church and just want to know when the church was built and who was the architect, what kind of marble is the floor, and so on. But the problem is that very often we find the same kind of explanation in the architecture books, in the books that we study in our faculty of architecture, where if you buy a book, I don't know, from talking about Frank Lloyd Wright or whatever, they just represent, yes, the color, sometimes the shape of the building, and they give you a lot of information on the date, where was he when he designed that building, and so on. But they never try to explain the real essence of architecture, how Frank Lloyd Wright thought about the space and things like that. So the history of architecture written with the tools of the architect, it's something that we have to look for, and that it's not so common. Only in this way can contemporary architecture become worthy of residing alongside the monuments of the past. That's what I was saying. And Zevi also said another very interesting thing. He used to say that the architect's job is not to produce enough technical details. This is fantastic, because we said that the architect's craft is very important. We have to know how to build a building, how to make walls and columns and so on. But the design, the project is never just enough technical details. It's never copying some technical details, something else. So all these things must be put together. Architecture is the result of a highly professional and qualified work that starts with an idea and not from the mere repetition of catalogs and technical sheets. The end of the architect is found in the detail. So the detail is important. We have to design the detail, it's important, but only when it reflects, prolongs, and deciphers the conception of the work. So what is quality? According to me and to Bruno Zevi, quality is methodology and technology, okay? So let's talk about the methodology, because technology, I don't want to talk about technology today, even if I like very much technology. I used to teach it for 7 years, but I don't want to talk about technology. I want to talk about methodology. That's what I was saying in the first slide. What we are looking for? We are looking for a method, okay? So a methodology for the rehabilitation of buildings. And to simplify, I want to use a medical analogy. And it's very easy. I think that you already heard about it. Like when you are sick, you go to the doctor, and the doctor will order some examination, some test, and with this test, he will formulate a diagnosis. Diagnosis, how do you say? I don't know. A diagnosis, okay, Italian. He will formulate a diagnosis, he will give you some medicine, and he will solve the problem. Well, with the buildings, it's the same. We got a very old building that has loses functionality. So the building is sick, okay? The building is sick. So we call the architect, and the architect will make some tests and some research to understand what is the problem of the building. Then he will formulate a diagnosis. What's the problem of the building? How can we solve it? And then he will give you some medicine. He will make a project. Okay? So, design methodology. Taking all necessary clinical examination, if you are in the medical field. 2, analyzing symptoms. 3, making a diagnosis. 4, assessing possible treatments. And 5, prescribing therapy. Well, as I said, it's very similar. Instead of taking all necessary clinical examination, we will try to have as much as knowledge of the building as possible. That are our clinical examination of a building, okay? And this is very, very important, because it's the first thing that we have to do with an existing building. So how much important is the knowledge of the building? Very, very important. Then analyzing the symptoms. 2, cataloging the elements. It's the same. In a building, there are elements. It's like the part of the body, and we have to understand what these parts are for and what's the problem with all these parts. 3, making a diagnosis. 3, analyzing the data obtained. 4, assessing a possible treatment. 4, establishing an intervention code. What's an intervention code? We will see. 5, designing according to the intervention code, that is prescribing a therapy. Okay, extra. This is very important. Now, what I'm gonna explain with the next slides is, as we said, a method, but it's a method. It's not the method. It's my method. It's the method that we use in our firm. It's a method that I thought about in these years. It's nothing new. It's just, how do you say, putting in order some ideas. I don't know if you understand this expression, but it's just a method. And also my method, it's something that I don't use always in the same way, because the real first and only principle of working on existing building, restoration or renovation is the same, is to proceed case by case. This is the only real rule. You have to proceed case by case always. So, let's return to the method. Achieving as much knowledge of the building as possible. We have today we have a lot of different way and technology to achieve this knowledge. Laser scanner is something fantastic, because 20 years ago laser scanner was just for very important projects, very important buildings, and so on. Nowadays, laser scanner is quite cheap. There are a lot of professionals that do this kind of work, that give you a complete laser scanner measurement of the building, and you can have a perfect image and all the drawing of the building with the 2-3 days of work with this laser scanner. And you also can have a very precise drawings of the building, because when laser scanner was not so easy to access, to use, it was almost impossible, not impossible, but very, 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 very long to design, I don't know, a vault like this one, or a room like this, the one that we are inside. Then we got other technology, for example, the stratigraphy and paintings and render stratigraphy. Here you see a picture how a stratigraphy is made when we see an existing wall, and we have to decide what color we will give to that wall in existing building. We always used to make this painting stratigraphy. That is to say that you go on keeping away the different layers of painting until you arrive to the final one. And in most cases, you find what was the original color of the building. But we also have other technologies to understand the structural situation of the building, like, for example, the double flat jacks test, that are two jacks that you put inside of the wall, and you press the part of the wall that is between the two jacks, and you measure how the bricks react between the jacks, and you can understand from this what's the capacity, what's the strength of the bricks and of that wall. So these are just 2-3 different way to have knowledge of the building, but there are a lot of different tests that we must make on existing building. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Then we have to make some drawings with this text, and to understand the situation. For example, for the facade, the external walls, in Italy we use a uninormal vocabulary. That is to say that all different kind of degradation of the wall must be represented, drawn with a different line, with a different edge, and so on. But these are all different ways to understand what is the situation of the building. This is the same. This is, for example, just cracks. How do you say? Analysis, cracks and instability analysis. Then we said, you remember cataloging the elements, okay? So what mean cataloging the elements? In my method, in the way we do it, as I said, it's not the only one. We usually we try to divide the elements inside of a building in a different kind of elements, and we divide it usually in 4 different types. That is to say, unrepeatable elements, repeatable, secondary, and disqualifying elements. What is in our method the unrepeatable elements? Unrepeatable elements, it's the word express itself, are elements in the building that cannot be repeated. You cannot make it similar. You cannot replace a part of it. If you got a fresco from Giotto in your building, you cannot replace a part of the fresco because you are not Giotto. So there's no way to replace and to repeat that element. In those cases, you see in the picture above, if you got, for example, a fresco, usually you do not replace the missing parts. There are many different techniques to complete or to restore a fresco or a painting. You can leave part without drawing. We can, as you can see in the other picture, you can just draw the outlines. There are many different techniques and more advanced one. But the idea is that some part of an existing building sometimes are non-repeatable, unrepeatable elements, and there's no way to reproduce them. Then we got repeatable elements that are elements that are interesting because some interest, some historic or artistic interest. But these elements can be repeated. If you miss a part of that decoration in the upper side of the slide, as you have all the other part of the decoration, you can replace it because this wasn't made by an important artist or with I don't know, some kind of knowledge that today you don't have. So if we have the technology, we have the ability to do that, so we can replace it because we know perfectly what was the shape, the form, and the color of the missing part. So, and the same could be a decoration on the wall or part of a steel gate, as in this picture. Then we got secondary elements. Secondary elements are I used to call these elements sacrifice part of the building. A render is a sacrifice part of the building because it's made to be sacrificed because it's the more external part of the building, and it's obviously in every 30 years, 20 years, 50 years, 60 years, you will have to replace the render of the building. So it's a part of sacrifice. These parts are what I call secondary elements that can be the step of a marble stairs, the render, as I said, the beams of a wooden beam, and so on. These parts are very easy. It's not the correct word, but it's right to replace this part because this part must be replaced to leave the functionality to the building. Then we have disqualifying elements, the elements that must be removed because are not original elements and are part of the buildings that has been added during the years, and the best is to remove them. So once we have make this cataloging of the elements, we can analyze the data obtained, and we can do that with different kind of drawings, in which we can indicate the different part of the buildings, and to do that, we do that because we want to to arrive to an intervention code. So what is the aim, the goal of this method is exactly to arrive to an intervention code. That is to say, what's an intervention code? An intervention code means give ourselves the rules that we are going to use in the project, in the design process. Because otherwise we just can decide what we want to do without no rules. I like it, I don't like it, it's interesting, it's not interesting. So the intervention code is based on the different elements that we have checked. And so must be guided by a clear and recognizable logic. The most important element characterizing the building must be, as I said, cataloged and classified, and this classification will guide future choices. So we can have different kind of intervention. We can have conservation works, and obviously the conservation works will be used with unrepeatable elements. We can have that are aimed to the conservation of particularly valuable elements without altering their appearance. We are in the field of restoration, cleaning and removal of substances on the surface, consolidation of damaged elements, and so on. Then we have restoration works. The restoration works are aimed to restoring integrity to the element, reconstruction of qualifying elements with traditional techniques still in use, a restoration of missing elements based on certain data testifying the original form, elimination of improper additions, and so on. Then we can have modification and integration works, that are works that produce elements that are partially or wholly different from the original ones. And then we got innovation works that are generally necessary to adapt the building to the new functional requirements and construction of internal partitions, creation of openings or new vertical connection, demolition of floors or walls, and so on. What we do with all these elements? Usually we place it in real drawings, in real sheets, in real documents to use in the project, to give to the clients, and to use when we go to talk with the heritage protection office. Okay. So, for example, in this slide, in this document, you see that for every room in this building, we checked all the different materials in the room. We classified it as a repeatable or irrepeatable element, and we also indicated the kind of works. You see classificazione delle opere on the left. There are different kind of works that we thought for that room, for that elements. So this is not just a theory, this is not just a method, but it's a practical way of approaching the design. Now I have completed. I just want to show you some more pictures to make you understand how can this method can solve some problems. How can we use it to decide some things? For example, this is Palazzo Marrelli, that is an ancient building in L'Aquila destroyed by the earthquake that we are designing right now. We don't have picture because we are designing it right in these weeks. And as I said, what we are trying to do, we are trying to get as much as knowledge as possible of the building. So we decided to make a virtual twin of the building, and to redesign completely, to redraw it completely in 3D. And then we use this 3D also to apply the apply the results of the analysis of cracks, instability, and the degradation of the materials on the external walls. So you see that we applied all these things in the 3D because it helped us to understand what's the situation of the building. This was very, very ruined building from the earthquake. Then we studied the situation. We are studying the situation of the different walls and vaults inside of the building. This is the building from outside. But if you take away all the external walls of the building, that's what is left inside. And you see, you got the three different colors. The white walls are not here because are the existing walls in good condition. The red walls are walls that resulted ruined during the earthquake. So these were existing walls, but they are no more there. Then we got the orange walls that are partially ruined, and all the purple. I don't know what color is that. The other color, or the other color walls or vaults are a part that are disqualifying elements. That is to say, elements added later, or different kind of floors that were rebuilt and so on. Ah, very good. Okay, very good. So ok. Come vado alla prossima? Cioè, devo ritornare indietro. Ok. Vabbè. Ok. So in this slide you see the walls in red, in orange, and in purple, and in white the existing walls that are still there. So what we tried to do was to empty the building, to take off all the orange, red, and purple walls and vaults, because it was impossible to rebuild ancient building or ancient vault. It was in this case an operation with no sense, and we also try to take away the disqualifying elements and the partially ruined ones. So we understood that there was a big empty inside of the building, and we decided that this was the right place for an auditorium. That's exactly what we are trying to do. It was not a precise request of the commitment of the client, because he just asked us a public space. But studying the building, we understood that there was this big space, and that it was very interesting to use it as it was a big empty space. So this is the same part of the building, but with a section view that let you understand better the history of the project as we are doing it. The same thing we made on different part of the building. Here, for example, there's a co-working. We are designing a co-working, and it's exactly the same situation. A lot of walls demolished, ruined, and so resulting in an empty space that we are going to fill with this co-working. This is just an example. This is a different part of the building. You see the same. It's the same approach. We had to find a place to put the stairs, and we and we decided to put the stairs in this part of the building for exactly the same reason. So I want to also show you, what time is it? We have time? Not very much? 2 minutes. Okay, so just this one, it's a completely different kind of project. This is the refurbishment of it's made in the private university Lewis. This was the original auditorium, and we refurbished the auditorium. This was the auditorium before our project, and this is how it is today. You see, it's completely different, because what I really didn't understand of this auditorium was the need of these circular parts on both sides of the auditorium. Because on the left part there were some fire, how do you say, scalante incendio, fire escape, fire stairs. Okay, some fire stairs, but on the right part of the room there was no stair. So they just made this round, this circular parts to have a symmetry in the auditorium itself. So what I tried to do was to avoid this symmetry, because usually auditorium are symmetrical. But the interesting thing of the aspect of this auditorium was precisely that it was not symmetrical, and it was a very interesting thing. So we designed a completely asymmetrical auditorium, because the seats are symmetrical, but the rest of the auditorium is not symmetrical. You see that you got a different wall on the right and on the left. We use this wall that you see on the right. We left them without no painting or without no wood covering, because we insert some projectors here in this under this beam here, and all this wall can be projected with a video mapping that is connected to the central LED wall. But the result is an asymmetrical auditorium, also because there's this gallery on the left that was not present on the right. So this is just to explain how the knowledge of the building and this kind of approach can lead to different kind of project and different applications of the methods. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's great. Thanks a lot, Cristiano.
You're welcome.
I think that your lecture was very interesting for our American students, because you opened up a big window on a world that it is for them pretty new, because it's all about historic, what we call sometimes as a course here, historic preservation. And so I'm sure this was absolutely new to them. As I told you in the beginning, we asked the students to write down a few questions if they would have had a chance to make an interview with you. And I selected a few interesting questions. By the way, you answered most of them already, because most of the questions were about the process that you guys follow in your studio. And so you answered most of them. But for example, here is a question. I don't want to say, I have the names. I'm going to skip the names of who wrote the question. What is the most challenging part about restoration in architecture?
The most challenging part?
Yep.
Well, I think the MEP and yes, the installation and plants in the buildings, because that's very, very, very complicated, especially when you got a building like this one. Imagine this auditorium, and you have to place some air conditioning, some air exchange, and place new cables, wires inside of it. You cannot touch the walls because there are plenty of frescoes and paintings and so on. Sometimes you cannot even touch the floor because the floor itself also is very important, very interesting. And in those cases, it's very, very complicated to find a way to pass with cables and so on. And sometimes you can do it in a very high-tech way. This means you leave the cables, wires, and pipe outside to see them in a high-tech style. But sometimes you cannot. So when you cannot, it's hard. You have to come from downstairs. Sometimes it's the easiest way because many times you don't have important ceiling on downstairs, and so you can go downstairs with the pipes and the wires, and then make an hole in the floor and exit where you want to. But this is one of the more complicated things.
I think that now, guys, you understand the reason why downstairs we have no air conditioning. How hard it would be to install the air conditioning downstairs. Actually, when Cristiano entered this building, his first reaction was like, oh.
Yeah, that's great.
And probably thought about how hard it is to manage this building here. So, but great, thanks for the answer. This is a very curious question. What type of advantages do you have as a designer in Rome to shape its future in historical preservation? That's big. It's a tough question.
Yes, it's a very big question.
Big responsibility.
Yeah, big responsibility. We are just a little part of the history of architecture. Obviously, we are just a little point in the history of architecture. I think that my responsibility is to reach that quality that I talked about in the slides. If we look for the quality, if we do what we do with the method, not, as I said, just because we like it or just because we want to leave our signature in the history of architecture, I think that we made the best that we could. Then, obviously, every time we preserve a building, and in this way we preserve a little part of our history, it's another important thing for the city and for the history itself.
Oh, great. I think I have another question which more or less relates to the answer you just provided, and it is, how does your firm create a unique design in order to stand out from the others?
To stand out in the Borromini, Michelangelo way.
I hope for you.
Stand out from the other. Well, we don't want to stand out from the other. We don't want to. As Borromini said of Michelangelo, you have to go ahead the others, but you always take in account that we are part of an history of architecture. We cannot. We can never forget what happened before and what other architects have done. Also, in the same period of time that you are working in. So you don't have to do something different. You have to do something good, and you have to follow your ideas. But I've never been so interested of being different. I think it's not so important because two projects are never similar, never. So every time you are different. Even if you take two buildings completely very, very similar, two architects will make two different projects. So you are always different. Just be yourself.
Well, this was a very honest answer, I think very useful for the students. Somebody was interested in what role do digital tools and parametric design play in your creative process?
Well, this is something that's changing very much in Italy, because in the next year, the next 12 months, the regulation on public tenders and public works is going to change, and in 12 months will be mandatory to design just in BIM. This was not mandatory in Italy before, so this is changing very much the scenario, and the truth is that we are all late in this process because we just avoided to update and to buy new softwares and so on. So this is something that we are doing right now, that we're trying to do. Obviously, a BIM design is not just a 3D modeling with Revit or another software. A BIM project is something quite different, because if you don't put all the information in every element, it's not a real BIM project. It's a 3D project. It's something completely different, and it's a little bit complicated for those who have worked for 20 years like me in a different way. But now we are trying to do that. 3D modeling and software tools are important, as you have seen in the last slides. Palazzo Marrelli was impossible to understand that building without a 3D reconstruction of all the building. So these tools are important. I think that you have to study the different softwares. You have to use it well, because especially when you first will go to work and to have your first experience in study firms, it will be very requested to use very well these tools, but are important in the design process as well.
My God, I imagine, like, for small studios, the BIM method would be really a revolution.
Yes, it is. Because we have to change the designing process. This is the real truth. It's not just using a different software, because we have changed a lot of software. When I started to work, I used to work with AutoCAD 1.1, or I don't know, I don't remember even the number. That was a software that just to design a cylinder took 10 minutes or something like that. Now we have many different tools, but this is not just a tool. This is a completely different design process, and we have to learn how to use it.
Well, I have one last question, because then it's going to be time to close this session, which is very practical. There was somebody who was interested in what is the business structure of your firm, how many parts, how many people, which is nice, because in Rome, studios are usually not
okay, it's interesting. Big. Yes, now in my firm we are 24. Me and my partner and 22 collaborators. We started, me and my partner, that is my cousin too, he's an engineer, and we started 20 years ago. Me, him, and a couple of friends, more than collaborators, and then we grow during the years, and we also try to do exactly what Bruno Zevi was saying. First of all, to be good professionals, I think that an architect can be an artist too, but first of all, must be a good professional, must know his work, must know how to build, must know the site work, must visit the site work, and so on. Then you can be an artist too, or a good designer, but you have to know your work. So now we are changing again, because I think that from now to 1 year, we will become an engineer enterprise, because even if my firm is quite big for the Roman scenario, the truth is that it's very small in the international one. We got already in Italy, we got important international engineer enterprise like, Artelia, 650 people just here in Italy. Is arriving Dark Group, 18,000 engineers around the world, and group like this. So we are 22. We are good, but we are not enough. So we have to grow again, and to do that, we are transforming ourselves in an engineer enterprise in which there will be my architectural film, an engineer, a structural engineer company, an MEP engineering company, and an expert of public tenders and so on. And by doing this, we will become a bigger enterprise. And in 1 year, so we will, SGP, that is Studio Gemma Progettazione, will not exist anymore, because we will be Deca Progetti. But well, this is how what we have to do.
Oh, wow. So I thought it was like a pretty usual question, but it's not. I mean,
no, it's not.
There's a whole future.
No, the truth
ready.
is that I think that, well, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know the American, the USA situation. I know that in Italy, we got a lot of small firms formed by 3, 4, 6 architects. My opinion is that these firms are dead. This form of doing architecture is dead, unless you just are interested in making some interior refurbishment or things like that. That it's very interesting. I like to do it. Sometimes we do that. But if you look for bigger projects, small firms have no possibility, because big projects are just with public tenders, and public tendering, it's very complicated. You need a lot of requirements, documentations, and so on. And the small firm can't afford all these things.
Yeah, I understand. So a big good luck for the future.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, Cristiano, it was very helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for being here with us. I hope to see you again in the next semesters. And so, guys, thanks for being patient and resisting up to the end of this time section. And we will meet next time. I will send an email with the next lecture and stuff like that. Thanks for writing down the questions. They were very useful, actually. And so please do it also for the next lecture. So thanks again, and see you next week. Ciao.